we usually start this show in a jovial mood and happy mood, but I just wanted to take a minute to kick off our show and just dedicate this episode to Kyron Lacey and his family. Kyron Lacey tragically passed away this past weekend in Houston, regardless of the circumstances and what was happening. He was a solid wide receiver at LSU for last year, and he was their go-to guy last year, including a huge game winner against Ole Miss in overtime, and he was one of the main reasons for that. Not only that, what he did on the field and off the field around Baton Rouge at LSU last season was beyond incredible. Regardless of all the circumstances surrounding everything, he was going to go to the draft, and he was going to be a huge prospect coming up, in a couple of weeks, or next week rather, here in the draft. We mourn the loss of him. We're praying for his family, and regardless of what you guys are thinking, and regardless of the situation and the highlights and the headlines of what happened and what was going on with him personally, I'm just going to leave all that beside. It's not about that. It's about just praying for his family and dedicating this episode to his family and himself. Kyron Lacey is my age, so I can relate. He was 24 years old. I'm 24. I can relate. It's tough, I know. And the only thing I can say is we're praying for them, and we're going to keep our thoughts and prayers with them. And if you need anybody to talk to somebody. Love and be there for that person. Love on them, be there for that person, and spread the light of Jesus that Jesus has called us to be down there, and serve and love people and be there for people. Guys, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow the pages there. You're going to get news and news and highlights and updates from across college football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories, going into today's college football question, as well as all things up to date and exclusive content from Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, there's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. You will find a home and about me page. Learn more about me as your podcast host. Contact info down below. Name, email, question. I'll answer it on air or off air if need be. There's also the platforms page, all the platforms I just mentioned. Go and click on which one's your favorite listening style of the show. There's also store and affiliations page. More on that coming soon as we continue to regularly update the website for Pigskin Frenzy. That is www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we are ready to rock and roll and continue with our spring football coverage. No more spring outlooks. We are in our next phase of spring football coverage and our last phase of spring football coverage as we wind down within the next month and a half or so. We're doing this until May 13th. After May 13th, we're done with that. Is when our spring football coverage concludes. We're kicking it off today with our spring football results. Florida State, Purdue, Indiana, and Ole Miss. We go all the way back to them for our spring football results. Then Thursday, we'll have South Carolina, Clemson, LSU, and Alabama for our spring results on Thursday. But that's Thursday. This is today. We kick off our first round of spring football results today. We're going to do that. But I really wish I would have seen the headlines before or after, before Thursday's episode, don't you think? We're going to go to the spring results. We're going to talk about that, but I cannot help but talk about it. Tennessee football, Nico Iamaleava, the situation going on in Knoxville. We're going to dive deep into that here in a little bit because I'm going to be honest with you, man. I really wish I would have known about what was going on before Pigskin Frenzy for Thursday's episode was posted and up to date. It came all out right after Pigskin Frenzy was posted on this past Thursday to episode 213. Go back and watch that on all platforms. This is episode 214. I was stunned reading about it. And you know what? We're going to kick off with it. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on everything going around with college football with that before we go to our spring football results. Guys, let's talk about what's going on in Knoxville, Tennessee before we get into our spring football coverage and our results. Right after I did my spring outlook on Tennessee, news came out, and it was with On3 reporter Pete Nakos. I'm going to get into that situation in a little bit because we got a lot to unpack on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. he reported that Tennessee, and this is a little, his reporting, because he is an amazing reporter for On3 Sports. I follow them a lot. They are awesome. They are amazing. Everybody out there does a heck of a job. He reported that something told him that they were in active negotiations, NIL deal, and with a new NIL deal. Him and Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee were. And then they were, they went to an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks dinner. Nico was there. There was rumblings that he's in the process of actually leaving because he's filing transfer portal work and all this stuff because of NIL negotiations breaking down and everything going on there. And then Friday rolls around, the day after Pigskin Frenzy was posted on Thursday, and after I did my spring outlook, the day before Tennessee's spring game, which their spring is over, and their spring game happened. The day before that's their spring game, Nico left Knoxville. And he he missed the last practice before the spring game, and he missed it. And then you're thinking all of a sudden, oh, man, what is happening here? Oh, no. So then after that, it all just kind of fell apart from there. On3 was reporting it. They were talking about it. Everyone was thinking, is this man about to enter the portal? Is this man leaving Tennessee? What was going on? It really sounded like it. It really did. It was one of the first major holdouts of preseason / spring football in college football. A college football holdout. You're used to seeing that with the NFL. I reported on that when I was doing NFL coverage before we switched to full-time college football. I'm used to the holdouts in NFL, but I'm not used to holdouts in college football. It's now coming to college football. I posted a video the day before Saturday, and I said this was not going to be the end. That this is not going to be the only guy that's going to do this. There's going to be more people doing this. And then Saturday rolls around, and it was announced that Nico Iamaleava will enter the transfer portal, and he will leave Tennessee. And he is now in the transfer portal. He will leave Tennessee, and he will no longer be a part and be quarterback of Tennessee. So he is moving on from Tennessee. Tennessee's moving on from him, and it was all due to the breakdown of NIL negotiations. Josh Heupel is an absolute dog for saying this, and he said, and I quote, "There's nobody bigger than the Power T, and that includes me. There's nobody bigger than this program, and that includes myself as the head coach." What a dog. And Tennessee rejected his NIL offer and what he wanted and said, you're going to have to go get it somewhere else. And Nico Iamaleava is betting on himself to go somewhere else to get that. He's now entering the portal. North Carolina. I've been hearing a lot of rumblings about North Carolina. I've been hearing a lot of rumblings about UCLA, USC, Oregon, Colorado, and Ohio State as a lot of schools in the mix for Nico Iamaleava's services. He's the number one quarterback, number one player, composite player in the transfer portal for the spring window that opens up tomorrow. It opens up tomorrow. Round of applause, right? Good reporting by On3. Good reporting by everywhere all around. Everyone's having thoughts about it. Everybody is sitting here on ESPN. They're sitting there on CBS. They're all sitting there and saying, it's on Nico. They're pointing the finger at Tennessee. They're pointing the finger at Nico. It's the NCAA. And everyone has their own thoughts on what's going on. Joel Norris has his own thoughts as well. And we're going to get to the bottom of it here. I think that everybody is right in their own way. And you're going to sit there and think, dude, are you serious right now? Yeah, I'm serious. I think that everybody's right in their own way. And I'm going to break everything down. I'm going to unpack everything. And I'm going to defend On3 here in a little bit because that got on my mind. Speaking of the situation now and how reporting is handled, here's the deal. You know what? Before we get into that, let's go into the On3 stuff really quick before we get into my thoughts on everything. So for On3, Pete Nakos reported it. Everybody was on Pete Nakos, and everybody was on him and On3 about how he reported it and how everything was broken down by him. Guys, let me go and tell you something. Don't hate on a man who has been really accurate at his reporting and has been really, really strong-willed at doing his job. You know, overall, he is a phenomenal reporter for On3 Sports. He knows what he's talking about in the land of college athletics and college football. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to NIL and transfer portal. He's on the know in a lot of stuff, and he's been pretty accurate about a lot of things. So if he says anything and he hears anything, I would listen to and pay attention. He is a hard worker. He is a workhorse when it comes to reporting on these things, on these topics. So do not take him lightly, and do not spread shame and hateful comments towards him. I am defending him, and I think that a lot of people who were spreading hate and ill comments towards him do not know a lick about what they're talking about. And that's not me being rude. I'm just being honest. They don't know a lick about what they're talking about. I'm just saying he knows what he's doing. He works hard at what he does. Do not spread the hate on him. I'm defending him wholeheartedly, and that includes Nico Iamaleava's father. He had a tweet, and he posted on there about him. That was, I do not condone the tweet. I think what he said at first, like the first sentence, was right and true, but the rest of it about Pete Nakos was not true at all. He is a phenomenal workhorse reporter for On3 Sports. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for all that you do for college athletics and college football in general, Pete. So that is my defensive there and just lay off of him there. Here is my thoughts on everything going on with the situation before we move on to the spring results, because we have to talk about spring football as well. So here is my thoughts on the whole situation going on, and let me unpack it. Nico's point of view. I understand Nico's point of view, and you're going to sit there and think, are you serious? I do. I think Nico Iamaleava, in his mind and how he feels, thinks, yes, I am owed more than what I think I'm worth. I think I'm worth a lot. He's seeing players like Carson Beck leave Georgia and get a good NIL deal at Miami, and Miami has more proven receivers than Georgia does at this point, and he's going to go play in the ACC, lighter schedule, more receivers, and more money. It all works out for Carson Beck. I think I could be a better quarterback prospect than Carson Beck, so I'm going to go transfer somewhere else, get my money, and get paid what I feel like I'm worth. A lot of people have that right to feel that way in college athletics and everything. I think Nico is doing what he feels is right in his heart, and he feels like he is worth what he is wanting, what he wants, and he is worth over $5 billion is what he is worth in his mind. There's nothing wrong with that. Go chase the money on what you want. I am not against anybody. If somebody came up to me, Joel Norris, and said, "Hey, I want $4 million. I'm going to give you $4 million to come play here or come report here, do Pigskin Frenzy for on whatever network or on whatever platform for $4 million a year," right? I'm taking the deal. You know what I mean? I'm signing the deal. Well, give me the contract. I'm writing it down now. I'm taking the money. I'm going to go chase after that. I've worked for it. I've gone towards that, right? I think that's where Nico is right now. He feels like he's worked towards it and had, his worth is there. On the flip side of that, my personal thoughts is I think that Nico's getting the wrong advice from his dad. He's getting the wrong advice from an inner circle that really doesn't know the game well. And I'm not going to sit there and say you don't know the game well. I think they know the game of college football. I don't think they know the game of college athletics and NIL well enough, because this could be a career thing. You know what I mean? This could be a career thing and a career-altering thing in terms of long-term. Joel Norris is a long-term guy. I don't think about what's going on with just Tennessee at the current moment. I think about what this could look like in his current NFL draft stock in the near future. Where he goes can affect how you can be going towards the pros. Okay? So I think people need to understand that you need to know what you're talking about behind the scenes when it comes to NIL and how it all works and how you're being represented. All that stuff, that matters. I think they need to know what they're talking about. So I think Nico's getting the wrong advice. Here is my deal. Nico probably could have stayed at Tennessee, and it could have worked out. I think Nico, this is just my honest thoughts, you're going to sit there and probably hate on me for saying this. Joel, you just said the other day that he needed help at receivers. He did need some help at receivers. On the flip side of that, Nico made a lot of mistakes in that Ohio State game. Nico, in big moments, did not play up to par of what he was worth. To me, he didn't play like he was worth $5 million plus. He didn't. Not in the big time moments. Did they beat Alabama? Yes. The defense in the running game was a big part of the reason why they beat Alabama. He didn't do so hot against Alabama. He didn't do so hot against Georgia either. In the big time moments, he wasn't there. Stat-wise, he made a couple of touchdowns. He made a touchdown or two, got some yardage out of it. He had a rushing touchdown against Ohio State. But other than that, he didn't find the open man. He got sacked. He made some incomplete passes. He made some underthrows. There was a lot of games in big-time games where he wasn't all there. NC State, Oklahoma, he played really, really well and played lights out. Vanderbilt played lights out. Florida was kind of a mix. He played good, but also played bad. Arkansas, he made some big-time decisions that really didn't pan out, like as in game costly decisions. So I think Nico has some room to develop. I really do. I think he has some room to develop. Tennessee saw that. This is where I'm coming in with Tennessee side of things. Tennessee saw that and was thinking, I don't think we're gonna pay you right now that much because I don't think you have earned that for us yet, play wise. I think once you develop more, you will earn that more, right? You will have that ready to go. And that's what Josh Heupel in Tennessee said, and he was like, okay, I'm out. So Nico was right to feel like he was worth that, but Tennessee is right and has the right to not pay anybody. And pay, hey, I don't think anybody's worth that much on this program. We're going to stick to doing what we believe in. Tennessee stood on business, and I believe in Tennessee on that, and I think what Tennessee did was a first in college football, in the new era of college football, was hold their ground. A lot of people give in to these players. The Tennessee and Josh Heupel did not. They stood on business. Applaud them for what they did business-wise. Applaud them. And applaud Nico for trying to go chase after what he believes in. He's going to bet on himself and believe on what he is worth. So applaud him for that. I think he's getting bad advice from his family in his corner, in his close corner, but applaud him for that. Applaud Tennessee for what they did. Everybody's right in the situation. Everyone's going to also sit and say the NCAA doesn't have any structure on NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff. So this is where I'll conclude with my thoughts on this. They don't. That's right. Everyone's saying what they're saying is true. They do not. It's the leadership of the NCAA. Here's my take. The NCAA, and I've said this for the longest time, the NCAA doesn't really run college football anymore. I want people to think on this. There's a lot of things that has happened, Michigan, for example, that have happened in college football that didn't really, like Michigan, for example, the sign-stealing investigation. Michigan ended up getting away with a lot of things they could have had if this was 2007, 2008 college football, BCS era college football, they could have had a 3 to 4 year postseason ban. They could have had a national championship stripped away, wins stripped away, coaches punished, players, staff gone, fired because of what they did. But in the new era of college football, they get a slap on the wrist, and a lot of other teams do as well. The NCAA doesn't do anything anymore. Why? Because college football itself, when it comes to money and when it comes to revenue and media and everything going on with college football, the sport has become too big for the NCAA to handle as a collegiate student government body, or as a government body collegiately and in collegiate athletic and college athletics. They become too big for the NCAA. And that's why the NCAA doesn't do anything, because they can't. They're too big. The college football is going to have money to do something about it. So what does college football need? They need a committee. And I've said this for the longest time. They need a committee to control everything. Everybody's running wild. I said this Friday that there will be this is not going to be the end. There will be more people holding out. I haven't even started my spring football coverage, and we got to go on this, but there needs to be a committee on this, and there's not a committee in college football. College football lacks leadership, and there's no leader in college football. There needs to be a committee to give structure in NIL and transfer portal. Everyone's going to say the NIL is the thing, the portal, and none of that's the problem. NIL is great. The portal's fine. There needs to be structure in college football, and there's not. There's no structure. This is going to keep happening. And this is going to keep happening in college football unless we do not get a committee and a leader involved in this. It's going to get worse before it gets better. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and the way it gets better is we have a structured committee to decide the playoffs, to decide NIL, to run recruiting, run transfer portal, run everything going on in college football. If we do not have that leadership under one committee, under one body, then it's going to be more anarchy and more chaos. The NCAA is not doing anything anymore, and that's the point. It's leadership. While NCAA does lack leadership, yes, it's too much control for them to handle. There needs to be a committee to save college football. It's in dire need of a leadership. It's hanging on by a thread in that term because it has gone off the deep end when it comes to everything going on. It's chaos in college football. It's like the Dark Knight in Gotham when the Joker comes and causes chaos amongst Gotham. It's anarchy. It literally is. It's anarchy and chaos, and that is college football. It's anarchy and chaos. There's got to be something, an act, a committee, something to stop this, to regain order in college football. It's okay to have NIL structure. It's okay to have transfer portal and all that. It's okay to have everything. It just needs to be guidelines and structure behind it. That way, it can all be under control. Everything's out of order, and that is the problem with this whole situation. Don't paint Tennessee as the villains. Don't paint Nico Iamaleava as the villain. They need to paint college football and the lack of leadership in college football as the villain. Not just the NCAA. They can be the villain if they want to be, but paint lack of leadership in college football as the villain because there's no leadership, and that is my point. That's my stance. There needs to be leadership to control everything in college football because this is going to keep happening in the sport. Love me, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments on below on YouTube, on Podbean, Spotify, on all platforms, on Instagram and X. There will be a reel on this. Guys, keep plugging into Pigskin Frenzy on all platforms. Guys, we got to go with spring football results because we're 22 minutes into the show, and we haven't even talked about spring football. So let's dive in to spring football results, going with Florida State to kick everything off there. Guys, I said Florida State. I wanted to see how Thomas Castellanos was going to do and the structure of the defense and the structure of the offense and how everything's going to look under Gus Malzahn and Tony White was going to be this spring. That's what I wanted to see from Florida State in the spring. And my overall impressions on this spring was it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was great, but it wasn't bad. There's still room for improvement for Florida State as they get ready to play Alabama. They have a few more practices left. They have their spring. They have up until next Monday, this coming up Monday on the 21st. That's when their spring concludes. But as we wind down for Florida State's spring practice so far, they haven't done bad. Castellanos, to me, is the clear-cut starting quarterback for this team. He's done quite well. He's thrown good passes and made some good decisions. I think accuracy on some of his throws needs to be a little bit better. But other than that, I think he can be a solid quarterback for this Florida State team that is in desperate need of a bounce-back year. You also have the foundation of Tony White's defense. I think the defense is playing a little bit more physical. I think they need to clean up some things. I think penalties. I think they need to clean up some open gaps in up the middle. I think they need to clean that up a little bit. But overall, they're playing a little bit more physical and a little bit more of an edge on defense. And I think that is really, really good from the Seminoles defense. I think Gus Malzahn is the key component to Florida State heading into the 2025 season. I think that how the offense is going to be foundation and how everything's going to look offensively heading into 2025, especially in that Alabama opener in Tallahassee, is going to be a key component for Mike Norvell and the future of Florida State in the 2025 season and beyond. I think Gus Malzahn, his structure is good. I just want to see how it is in an in-game environment. He's doing well so far. The plays are dynamic. But is it going to be dynamic enough to win ball games and have a bounce back year? I'll have to see a little bit more of that. So those are the things that I saw really spring result wise from Florida State. And to move on, because we're going to move on to Purdue, Indiana, and Ole Miss. But overall for Florida State and how I grade their spring as we conclude their spring coverage and what I think, I honestly, if you want to look at Florida State and their highlights, how they play with a little bit of an edge, and that's what they need, right? They need a little bit of an edge. So how I view Florida State, head coach Mike Norvell, offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn, and Tony White is their defensive coordinator. I grade them a B+ overall this spring. I think B+ is the best grade I can give them right now. I think I got to see a little bit more. It is the best grade I can give a team that only won like 2 games last year. It really is. It's really the best grade I can give them, especially for winning just 2 games. That's really it. That's all you could say on that. I think that it's a team that is in desperate need of a bounce back year, and I think they played well in the spring and practiced well in the spring. I think they did well in the transfer portal, and they built a really, really good coaching staff. Norvell did, but I think they need to show and have a prove it kind of thing. They need to prove it a little bit more as they head into the fall camp. So I think the best grade I can give them right now is a B+. Florida State doing okay, but need to show a little bit more to have a bounce back year. That's my overall assessment of Florida State spring, and that's my spring results on Florida State. Moving on, let's talk about Purdue. And their spring ended this past Saturday. They had a spring game, and it was Barry Odom, the first spring game under new head coach Barry Odom coming in from UNLV, getting his staff together, Mike Schroer at defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator Josh Henson, and head coach Barry Odom at the helm for the Purdue Boilermakers. I said that we wanted to see who's going to take that leap at the quarterback spot. What's the defensive structure going to look like, and what's the offensive structure going to look like, and what's everything going to look like for Purdue there. So that's what I wanted to see. No clear-cut favorite right now at the quarterback spot. I think we're going to have to wait a little bit up until the fall camp. So there's no really clear-cut winner right now, as I believe. The structure on defense looks really, really good under Mike Schroer and under Barry Odom. And I think that the structure, they play with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder. I think under Ryan Walters, they were kind of missing that edge and missing that toughness and attitude. But with Barry Odom, they have that, and it showed during the spring game. I was really, really impressed with their secondary. I think Tony Grimes, the UNLV transfer corner, played really, really well in the secondary, and I think that he showed a little bit of an edge in the secondary spot for this team. And I think that he has proven to be the overall leader early on for the secondary. I think the one thing they got to work on a little bit is the edge rushing. I think the edge rushing capability could be a lot better. But overall, the defense was very surprising, and especially for a defense that wasn't so good last year in the 2024 campaign under Ryan Walters. Barry Odom's looking to change the trajectory of this Boilermaker program. The offense was okay. I'm not going to sit there and say I liked what I saw for the defense a little bit better than the offense early on, but I think in 2 crucial positions, especially in the backfield, they look good in the backfield. They look good in the slot receiving. I think the quarterback competition is still ongoing. I didn't really see a clear-cut edge yet, but we will see that heading into fall camp and the training camp. We'll just have to wait and be patient on that. I think the foundation of what Barry Odom is trying to bring back to the Boilermakers in West Lafayette, Indiana, is toughness and a physical edge. He knows it's a work in progress to rebuild Purdue. It's a work in progress to rebuild this whole team, this whole program, and to rebuild it from where it was, right? I think that is the honest truth on where Purdue's at right now. I'm not going to sit there and say Purdue's going to be a team that they're going to win it all, right? Or, surprise. I think they're going to surprise some teams, but I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to win the Big Ten or do all that. I think they're going to be a team that surprise some teams and sneak up on some teams this year, because I think Barry Odom's a phenomenal football coach. But I'm not going to sit there and say either that they're going to go win 4 games. I think they're going to win more than 4 games the way they're playing. So I think this year is going to be a rebuilding year. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and I think Barry Odom knows that. My overall grade for Purdue this spring, after watching their spring game, and my grade for their spring is a B+. I think that's the best I can give them right now for a team that didn't really do so hot under the Ryan Walters regime. I think their defense really showed me a lot, and I think their defense really gives me a sense of hope where Purdue's heading as a football program and where Barry Odom is leading them as a football program. So I think right now, the grade that I can give for Purdue right now is a B+. I think that's the best I can give. I think the offense needs a little bit more work. But they're in up the middle in some gap protection, in some gaps, leaving some wide open gaps for Purdue's defense is something that needs to be worked on a little bit. But the secondary is really, really good and physical. I think the defense overall is physical, and that's what shocked me the most about Purdue's spring game. They play with an edge and toughness, and I think that is what gives me the grade of a B+, coming off of, the season that they had in the regime they had under Ryan Walters. So Purdue gets a B+ in spring, and that really is the best grade I can give them for the Boilermakers coming off this spring, and that is my spring results for Purdue. Moving on, we got 2 more left before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Let's talk about Indiana. Indiana has their spring game coming up this weekend, but I'm going to give you my spring results overall. I'm going to watch their spring game. I don't think my spring results are going to change right now. I'm just going based off of spring practice and overall. Spring games too, yes, but overall, their spring results. But their spring results right now and how I look at Indiana's spring so far. I think there's a little bit of an inconsistency, especially at the receiving spot, and Kirk Cignetti talked about that the other day in media. He thinks there's a lot of inconsistency going on where they're not bringing in their best effort mentally, and that was one of the things that I was concerned about heading into the spring was their mental preparation and their effort after that first-round playoff loss in Notre Dame and where they're going to be at and their headspace is going to be at in the spring. I think the Hoosiers have a team on paper that looks really, really good, and that Kirk Cignetti can have another year like he did last year in terms of winning a lot of games. Now, he's got some games on that schedule that are tough, not saying that, but he's got the roster that could, surprise some teams and think, hey, Indiana's not going to be that bad of a team again this year. But he is seeing a lot of inconsistency at the receiving spot, on offense, at the quarterback spot. Fernando Mendoza is doing the best he can, but but the effort and the lack of effort on both sides of the ball is what's getting me with this Indiana team right now. Inconsistency, the mental preparation, it's just not there and like I thought it would be. He even brought that up, and he says these players have the potential to be something really, really special this season. But he thinks that they have a lot of inconsistency problems in preparing and putting in their effort at practice. And I think that is what is concerning me. The one thing that I wanted to see was them, how are they going to be mentally and preparing themselves heading into the spring and heading into the fall and heading into the college football season for 2025. Right now, the inconsistency and the lack of consistency and the lack of putting in effort into every little step you do in practice and on the field is concerning. It concerns me because that's going to bleed in to games, and you don't want to do that. So you got to get that cleaned up ahead of the fall camp and ahead of the spring. Right now, Kirk Cignetti is their head coach, along with offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan and defensive coordinator Bryant Haynes. I like their linebackers. Their linebackers are playing tough. I like I wanted to see what the offensive line's going to do. I think the offensive line's doing okay. I think it does have some room to improve, but I think the mental preparation and the lack of effort mentally is what's getting me with this team, and the inconsistency is what needs to be cleaned up a little bit for the Indiana Hoosiers. Right now, how I grade and how I finish their spring and how I grade their spring overall is a B-. Pigskin Frenzy grade of B- is probably logical for this Indiana team because they got the talent and they got the coaching staff and they got the players. I just think if they were a little bit more consistent, I would have probably given them an A because their roster is really, really solid. I just think they need to be a little bit better in preparing for their practices and preparing for their spring and getting everything on tap there and getting everything ready to go for their spring. So I'm going to give the Indiana overall a B- for their spring results. So that is my spring results and my spring football coverage on Indiana. Last but not least, before we conclude today's episode of the Pigskin Frenzy and move on to Thursday's edition of Pigskin Frenzy and get ready for that, is Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to end their Fan Appreciation Day and, Meet the Rebel Appreciation Day on Saturday, but spring results overall is their spring's winding down, so we can give their spring results there. But overall, what I'm seeing from this team is they did lose a lot to the NFL draft, but they are looking really, really solid with a lot of their replacements. And that's what I wanted to see. If some of the young players were going to step up, if if Austin Simmons is how he was going to be and look as QB1 for this football team, how is everything going to be around the parts there? I think Austin Simmons is playing really, really consistent football at the quarterback spot. He's looking like he will be QB1 for this team coming up in the fall. He is looking really, really good throwing the ball, making accurate decisions. His accuracy at throwing is amazing. He is doing really, really good and preparing himself to be QB1 under Lane Kiffin's system this fall and under Charlie Weis Jr. system this fall. So I'm liking that. I'm liking the receiving core. Caden Lee doing really, really good things. I'm liking the backfield. Logan Diggs is coming into his own, trying to rehab from his injuries and trying to get everything going there at the running back spot. I'm really, really liking this team. I think up front they look good. I think they're a little bit more bolstered up front. I think the only question is that I got for Ole Miss is the injury concern, especially in the secondary. I think their secondary is going to be a little bit young, and I think that's the only concern under Pete Golding in this defense is the secondary. And if they're going to be tested heading into the season, I think that's a huge thing then for them. Their defense overall up front is good. They got some good players there, but I think secondary is the only concern that I got for this Ole Miss team, especially how young they are and how condition they are, especially in the injury spot. So you got head coach Lane Kiffin, you got offensive coordinator Charlie Weis Jr. and defensive coordinator Pete Golding all back at the helm. How I grade Ole Miss's spring overall, I graded it an A. I think they looked really, really solid, especially with a lot of the talent that they have lost. I think that an A grade for Ole Miss and their spring result is the best I can give them. I think that right now they look good. They need to improve in the secondary, especially really how young they are and how they need to develop them more. But they also need to get well and conditioned and prepared injury-wise and conditioning-wise ahead of the season as well. So I think right now, A is a good grade overall because they got some talent, and I think they've been playing really, really consistent and playing with a physical prowess and an edge and practicing with that. But I think the only thing they need to really clean up is the secondary, the defensive backs, and conditioning the players better, especially at that secondary spot. So that's my spring results on Ole Miss. I give them a Pigskin Frenzy spring grade of a grade A for Ole Miss. That was my spring results on Florida State, Purdue, Indiana, and Ole Miss. That was my thoughts on the Tennessee situation earlier, and Nico Iamaleava situation. We need a leader in college football, and that is what we truly need in the sport. Guys, that just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow up the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. You want to answer today's college football and exclusive content on college football, not NFL football, college football, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, there's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you'll find all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. We will be back Thursday we will be back Thursday for more spring football results. South Carolina, Clemson, Alabama, and LSU all on tap for Thursday. South Carolina, Clemson, Alabama, LSU. Spring results for all four teams on tap. This coming up Thursday. Can't wait to give our spring football results on those four teams. Until Thursday's edition of Pigskin Frenzy, guys, we love you all. We couldn't do this show without our Lord and Savior Jesus. We give him all the praise for giving us the platform to do this show. And if you want to come to know Jesus, and if you want to talk to us about making Jesus your Lord Savior of your life, contact us on X and Instagram at pigskin_frenzy, as well as the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com, in the contact info down below. Contact info, we'll gladly talk to you about you guys coming to know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, because without him, we wouldn't be living life, and we wouldn't be doing this show on all platforms, and we wouldn't have 4,800 plus listeners and counting, about to be having 4,900 listeners in counting ahead of football season. So we are so thankful for the Lord and Savior Jesus, and we serve him, and that's our ultimate goal, is to serve Jesus as best as we can as followers of him. Guys, until Thursday, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We love you all. As always, stay the course.